Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. That's in honor of Lavelle, and he's in his healing modality, and he's a little quiet these days, but he's getting better, and we're grateful to be a community, and we get together every Thursday morning as a community. We're here to, link arms and, to celebrate, to go through whatever challenges we have, and to learn and grow together. And Thursday mornings, we do what we call a business chat. For those of you that are new, it's where we talk about business, and the first half hour is typically a training. And if you want to stick around and you have any kind of business questions at all, it's an opportunity to do that. And this morning, I'm thrilled to introduce to you two of our leaders in our business, Dr. Latrice and Dr. Velvet. And they have both volunteered to continue our journey on this book, The Power of Five. And this is by John Maxwell. It's The Power of Five for Network Marketing. And we recommend everybody, did you hear me say everybody, get this book because it's small and potent. And if you do what he says, you will be successful. So it is my pleasure to turn things over to Dr. Latrice and Dr. Velvet, who are going to kind of guide you through the chapter on mindset and how important that is. So I just want to briefly share the five things, because Gregory likes me to do this. Okay. I should know them by heart. We already covered growth and the importance of, that's like the number one most important thing, because they talk about you work on yourself, it's reflected in your business. And so that's why we continue to do programs like this, is to support each and every one of us is really doing the self growth. And then connection. Our business is about relationships. And so understanding how valuable and important connection is for success, not just in business, but in life. And today is mindset. And I'm going to let our lovely doctors talk about that today. Then it's followed up by leadership and significance. So I'm going to turn things over to you guys. And I'm so grateful to have your wisdom to share with our organization. So over to you two.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robin, for that beautiful introduction. And you know what? I got to look, and I don't know if Dr. Latrice looked at it or not, but we actually have one of the biggest powers, right? It's one of the biggest chapters of the book. So I was like, wow, that worked out good that there are two of us, right, Dr. Latrice? Well, I'm going to hit this off by saying something as a metaphysician. So, as a metaphysician, whenever I read anything, and I really invite you guys to do the same thing, and I do it with movies, I do it with my interaction. Metaphysicians tend to see beyond the physical. We're looking more than just at the surface, we're looking at what is underneath everything, driving everything. So, I want to ask you a really good question to kind of kick things off, get you kind of thinking. In the chapter, um, Maxwell says that his dad even paid him to read. It was really important for his father to know that he could read. So I want you to put into the chat, what are your thoughts? There are no right or wrong answers. Is why would he do that? What was the significance in it? It's going to be key towards the end. So when we're looking at mindset, it's more than just positive or negative thinking. This is about what we have set our mind on. But many of us don't even know what our mind is set on. We have these situations that occur, and we're always asking ourselves the wrong question. Why did that just happen? Right? So I'm going to help you with that a little bit today, too. But one of the biggest things that he says, now we're not here to talk about personal development or to give you something that's going to lead to personal development. We're going to ask you questions to kind of get things stirred up. We're going to have some little exercises for you. But in the book, he was talking about it's the very first thing is that how we shift our mindset is in personal development. So it's really important to think about how you're going to go about doing that, what resonates with you, because if we don't have the personal development, we cannot look deeper within. So I said earlier, it's about what we have set our mind on. Now, what if I asked you, or what if I made this statement exactly as Maxwell puts it? You are exactly where you are via your thoughts. You are exactly where you are, and your thoughts have brought you here. Write down in the chat, how does that make you feel? Does it empower you? Does it make you feel like a victim? How are you feeling when somebody says, well, you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now because your thoughts brought you here? There's a really empowerment moment here, folks. Your thoughts are powerful. I love some that I'm already seeing. True clarity. That's me, right? I love the clarity. If I'm in a situation that I'm not happy with, I begin to look at what were my thoughts when I did that. Now, there is a really cute story in this chapter that reminds me of the movie Up. Did anybody watch that little cartoon? Dr. Latrice, I know that you did because you love children. And I love those kind of animated movies anyway. But it had so much depth. And then when you read this chapter, you're going to even become more enlightened why that movie was important. So in Maxwell's story, he shares the story about a guy that tied all these balloons to a lounge chair, and he had his goodies and he had his beer, and he was just going to let his friends disconnect him, and he felt like he was just going to float up above, and that when he was ready to come down, he would start shooting the balloons, and he thought he could come down gracefully. I could share with you so many metaphysical concepts in that, but really what I want to do is I don't want to deter you in your own thought about that. But I do want to say he emphasizes active imagination when it comes to a healthy mindset, a mindset that helps you to achieve your ultimate desire. Now, you guys may have heard me, for those of you that have listened to me before, I always say what you resist will persist. What you resist will persist, but we don't know what we're resisting. So how do we stop resisting? How do we stop that persistence? Because it literally is controlling us down in the shadows. So to understand mindset, we really need to understand the minds themselves. So let's talk about that real quick. The conscious mind, most of us understand, it's where we live our life. We're making choices, we're analyzing, we're coming to realizations based on what we see. But it is the physical effect of things much deeper going on inside of us. So that's why we're making these choices. I call it clarity by contrast, right? So if I see something and I don't like it, I get to choose differently. On a conscious level, that can be very empowering. But on a mindset level, we have to also look at the other two minds. So let's look at the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind I call as the bride, right? You have the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. The Son is the physical effect, the subconscious mind is the bride, the spirit, and then you have your unconscious or main conscious mind, which is your God mind, that higher mind, right? So the subconscious mind processes emotions, memories, and patterns that we're now going to react to based on what our beliefs are. So this is why I call that subconscious mind as the physical effect of the conscious mind, because now it's projecting onto the movie screen of our mind what our feelings are, what our beliefs are, how do we want to react. So the subconscious mind will bring that up to us. Now the unconscious mind, I want everybody to take this note down. Hopefully you have paper and pen today. Very, very good. You get an A, Dr. Latrice. The unconscious mind is the deepest layer of identity. It's the deepest layer of identity. It's holding beliefs and internal truths that we accept about ourselves. Sometimes we pick these up because somebody else influenced what we thought about ourselves. So if you have been told as a child, oh, you're never going to amount to anything, you're never going to amount to anything, your unconscious mind now begins to identify with that belief. But then it goes unknown. You don't know it. It's sitting there and you're wondering, why does this keep happening to me? Because what we resist will persist. But that persistence is coming from a control that you are living in the shadows of. So I said something very important about that the unconscious mind responds to identity. When we're looking at the identity of ourselves, and I will be honest, I used the Hawaii trip when it started. I had all kinds of feelings coming up for me. Many of you may have had some of these same feelings. And I always use everything that we do in LifeWave as a personal development moment. I check in with my feelings. I'm checking in with my mind. I'm checking in with my thoughts. And what's magnificent is I can help other people get where they need to be or where they want to be. But sometimes it seems like I'm not getting there myself. And so I sat back and I was like, what is this showing me? What is happening that I'm pulling back? Why do I feel weird? Why do I feel uneasy? When you are told as a child you are to be seen and not heard, or that you don't need to be seen, or that you don't have any value unless you can bring me some kind of reward, suddenly as an adult, you want to help other people to be seen, but you don't want yourself to be seen because you see yourself when you are seen as a threat. That if people see me, will they like me? If people see me, will they be jealous of me? If people see me, will they accept me? This goes on in our mind, whether we realize it on a conscious level or not. So if you're one of these people who get to success and then all of a sudden you see that success drift away when you're right on the edge of it and you know it's there, right? Dr. Latrice, I can see you shaking your head. This is familiar for a lot of people and it's sad. It breaks our heart. It makes us feel like, what have I done wrong? You've not done anything wrong. You just didn't know what you identified with. So mindset has to come from, what am I identifying with? But I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm not going to leave you hanging. It's important to understand that your nervous system is wanting you to change. We feel it in our nervous system. So, what if I start identifying myself in a different way? Of that I'm the kind of person that, and here's what's magnificent, is that I've been doing this my whole life, but I wasn't doing it consciously. Now that I know to do it consciously, I can be more empowered in my life. So people would always ask me, how do you know these things? And I would say, I'm just one of these people that don't know where it comes from. I just do. I'm just one of those kind of people. But here's something empowering that I might want to share with you today that may help you with your networking business. Identifying this way, I'm just naturally someone, I'm going to let you write it down. I'm just naturally someone people trust and wants to do business with. I'm just naturally someone people trust and want to do business with. Now let's back this up with a couple more. I'm the kind of person who loves reaching out to people. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So it's not about a why. It's not about a what. It's not about a how. It's identifying that I'm this kind of person, that I am the kind of person that will reach out to you. I'm the kind of person that can talk to anybody. Now, when you say that out loud, what instantly comes to your body? I'm seeing Kira. She's like, no way, I can't do that. So there's some other unconscious beliefs in there coming from the unconscious mind. So what we do is we keep tweaking it. We find out what was that identity I was attaching myself to, that if I don't like talking to people, if I can't feel good about reaching out to anybody, what was the other belief about myself? And now we can switch it, right? Now we can switch that belief. So when I found out through this Hawaii trip, because I didn't earn it, I didn't get it, and I wasn't going to make any excuses. I did the work. I put the work in. I signed up people. I was helping my people. I was helping other people's teams. And it wasn't until later, here's my statement. I am someone who steps into rooms. I am someone who steps into rooms. So when we step into a room, we're visible, we're seen, we're anchoring the energy. We're not doubting ourselves. I'm someone who can step into a room. I'm confident. I have nothing to hide. I'm not judging anyone. And then this will help build that mindset of attaching it to your identity. Dr. Latrice, I cannot wait for you to take it from here. I know you have a great big mental resource for people with actions, right? Because you are an action woman working with children and all the things that you do. So I'm going to turn it over to you and I'm going to take my notes.
Well, thank you, Dr. Velvet. Can you hear me loud and clear? Good. So thank you so much, Dr. Velvet, for that lovely metaphysical foundation on mindset. You know, your perspective on mindset is so universally aligned. I mean, when I listened to you, I mean, I was taking notes and I almost forgot for a moment that I'm going to have to present something too. But when I was listening to you, I could feel your spirit being so kind. You know, you being so universally aligned, you know, it's helpful for all of us. You know, people can say, well, I heard that before. Doesn't matter. Sometimes we just need to hear things again. And we just heard how powerful our thoughts and our beliefs are. And what I'd like to share now in this particular training is how we train that thinking thought or that thinking that we have through our everyday actions. So we're going to take a little shift and move from the metaphysical to the physical. So I want you to do this with me. Let me ask you a question. You ever think about how paths are formed? Paths. Hmm. Well, let's picture this together. I love to picture things. So let's picture this together. We're children again. Thank you for bringing that up, Dr. Velvet, that I love working with children. We're children again. And we live on ABC Street, and our friend lives on 123 Street. We both live in the middle of the block. And so anytime we go to visit, you know, you have to go all the way down your street to the end of the block, turn the corner around, and then come back down to your friend's house. And then your friend has to do the same thing. And so each time you're going, you're just walking by. And then one day you notice, or maybe you pay attention to, or maybe your reticular activating system is turned on because you've been thinking, I'm tired of walking all the way to the corner every time I have to go. And you notice, go to my friend, and you notice there's a vacant lot. there's this vacant lot between the houses. And, it's got grass growing up and some other shrubbery and maybe some weeds, that are there, but you notice it. And so you think to yourself, you know what? This would be a way to get to my friend's house. So even though the grass is high, because, again, back then we didn't necessarily have an HOA that that took care of the grass. And so it wasn't well kept. And so we go through it the first time. The first time, it's tough. It's tough to get through there because, we don't know what's there. We might be a little timid of what might be lurking in that tall grass. But the next few times we go, we can now start to see our footprints. We can see our footprints in the grass. And then, we see where we've tramped that grass down. By the fourth or fifth time, it gets easier and easier because that grass is now laying down for us. By the eighth or 10th time, that grass is laying down. Now, other children are maybe using that same way to go across, and eventually there's no grass. There's no grass there at all. It's an obvious path has been formed. Now the path is clear. It's free. It's an easy way to get from one street to the other street. Back in the day, we called that a shortcut. We created a shortcut. Well, that is how neural pathways are also formed in our brain. So the first time we think a new thought, the first time we test out a belief, it takes effort. The second time, the third time, the fourth time, we can find it again. We can go back in there and we can find it again. And through repetition, it can become like that path. It can become fast, automatic. It's just the way we move now. It's just who we are, because the thoughts we repeat become the paths our minds travel the most and travel most easily. So when we think about that, I want you to think about, let me give you another example. The mind is so extraordinary. It does this without our conscious awareness. So that's what I want to show you now. In this example, I want you to think about a toddler. A toddler, touches something hot. The first time we laid a hand on something hot, we probably got burned. Why? Because the heat signal had to travel from the hand, up the arm, across the shoulders, up the back, cross over to the other side of the brain. The brain then had to send the signal all the way back down and for the arm to lift the hand away. So that took a lot of time, like going through a forest and you're going the first time and you've got this leader and they're out there, knocking down all the brush so that you can get through. Well, after repeated exposure to different temperatures, the brain begins to recognize the heat sooner and it sends the signal faster. So now all you have to do is get close to something hot and instantly that signal goes up, comes right back down, and we retract. We move away. Because again, those thoughts we repeat become the thoughts that the mind can travel most easily. So now that pathway is already there. It's established. Our goal in business then and in life is to establish, is to form, is to create and build new pathways intentionally. We're laying down a new path on purpose. At first, it's on purpose. We have to really think about it. Again, like you had to get through there the first time, get through that path, start to create that path the first time. So we're laying down a new path on purpose at first until it becomes the way we think. It becomes the way we function. It becomes automatic. See, the beauty of life is that mindset isn't something we're born with. It's something we train, which means at any moment in time, we can train the mind to do something different. So developing the required or desired mindset, it isn't a question of force. We're not forcing positive thoughts. Our work is about intentionally creating better mental pathways. That's our work. And that for some of us, or for all of us at some point in time, it may have represented a shift, a shift in our daily practices. When we shift, we shift and work from decision and not emotion. We can shift from, we turn no into an opportunity to collect more information from that individual. We shift when we create movement even before we feel we're ready. We've heard that term, just be ignorance on fire. Just go out there and tell what you do know. Just go out there and be excited about something. When we shift, when we measure growth and not compare results. My growth is my path, your growth is your path. And that's where the shift may kind of come in for some of us. We shift when we build belief through every day, our daily evidence. I guess we could say, if I can say this, shift happens. Sometimes shift happens. Shift happens, and our daily actions create the evidence that reinforces the story we're telling ourselves. You heard Dr. Velvet mention the unconscious mind. We've been telling ourselves a story for so long, or someone told us a story for so long. And so our daily actions end up creating the evidence that support or even reinforce the story that we're telling ourselves. So our actions, we act. We ACT. At the end of each power section of the book, Mr. Maxwell, he leaves us with 3 questions using the acronym ACT, A-C-T. So the A is for apply, the C is for change, and the T is for teach. So for those of you who are still waiting for your book to arrive, or maybe you're just starting the book, or you haven't answered the questions at the end of the mindset power section, I don't want to take that experience away from you. So perhaps what we can do is just, look at some different questions, and you heard Dr. Velvet mention, that she's on a path. I'm on a path, so everything Dr. Velvet and I are discussing today, we are practicing right alongside you. I can't mute anybody. I can't see them. Okay, so I'm sorry. So let me just say that again. Everything Dr. Velvet and I are discussing today, we are practicing right alongside you. So I like to state questions in the first person. I'm always talking to myself. I'm a fan of Bootsy Collins. He would say, I'm just talking to myself. So let's look at a question under apply for the A. Let's ask ourselves, how am I going to apply this information that I received today on mindset? How am I going to apply it in my conversations? How am I going to apply it in my follow-ups? How am I going to apply it in my activity for today? See, that's laying down a new path. That's practicing practicing belief even before you have the evidence. That's faith. Those things we haven't seen. So think about that when you think about apply, and when you think about teach. When you think about, you think about change. I'm jumping ahead. ACT, Latrice. When you think about change, let's ask the questions. What thinking pattern do I need to change? Perhaps I've been waiting for motivation. Perhaps I've been taking rejection personally. When we know no doesn't mean no to us, it's the person not seeing anything they need to see. We often say NO stands for next one. So, but have I been taking that rejection personally? Maybe I've been comparing myself instead of growing. And so when I compare myself, I can always compare myself to someone who's doing more than I am, someone who's doing better than I am in my mind, someone who's accomplishing more, who's where I want to be. And so instead of taking the time to grow and change, I spend my time comparing myself. So look at that as far as change is concerned. And then the T is for teach.
Just
so
put them over there.
Let's
put them on the table.
T is for teach. So let's ask ourselves, how will I teach? How will I turn around and teach this mindset to the people who join me in this business? Because duplication begins with what I model. And we don't have to look far for excellent models. We really don't. Miss Robin and Mr. Gregory, they give their footsteps. They provide a template for us to follow. They model leadership. They model mindset. They model growth. They model every one of the five powers in this book. So it was funny. When I was working on this, I was thinking about how I can remember as a tutor back in high school, we were told, we cannot, if we cannot explain it simply, then we haven't practiced it enough. If we cannot explain something simply, we haven't practiced it enough. Miss Robin, Mr. Gregory, they give us opportunities to practice leadership, to practice being the best person we can be. In fact, that's what they've done with me here today. They've given me an opportunity to practice on their forum, to practice on their Zoom, to practice with their people. And I'm very touched and I'm very humbled because, I'm thinking back to during those same high school years, how I remember my grandparents often, discussing how the thoughts we repeat eventually become the paths we walk. They're talking to me all the time, Tracy. Those thoughts you're continually thinking are going to give you the path that you walk on. And so you want to be very cautious and careful about what you allow to enter your mind, which, because that's going to form, as Dr. Velvet just showed us, our mindset. So for me, those high school memories are just, they're beautiful for me because they show me that even today, that we don't build this business by changing our circumstances. Everybody thinks, oh, well, I've got to have this. I've got changing our circumstances. We build this business by training our thinking, by being on purpose, by working on it every day. Mindset in this business is about intentionally laying down those new pathways in our thinking, those things that we can practice, not for perfection. Perfection doesn't exist on this level of creation, not for perfection, but for permanence, to make it an automatic part of what we do on a daily basis to grow and to change. So, on behalf of Dr. Velvet and myself, we hope that someone found something of benefit today. I'm looking forward to power number 4. Power number 4 is on leadership, and we have the best leaders who provide us with an excellent, excellent model to follow. So back to our leaders, back to you, Miss Robin, and Mr. Gregory, if he is there. Thank you.
Wow. 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 I was taking all kinds of notes. I hope everyone else was too. I'm gonna have to re-listen to this. You guys added so much great wisdom and your metaphors were so power. It's one of the best ways to learn. And I love, Dr. Latrice, that you brought up the 3 questions at the end of each chapter. They're the same questions. The act, apply, change, and teach. How powerful. And when you guys were talking, I was just thinking about, Pavlov's dogs. We may have been conditioned like, oh, you're not good enough. Oh, you can't do this. Oh, this business model doesn't work. And we owned it and we bought it. And we have the difference between an animal with stimulus response, we have the power to choose our response, different than an animal. But in order to do that, we have to become aware. And the awareness happens before the change happens. And it's been wired in there, and I love this is going to be so with me, this pathway thing, because what we're doing is creating new pathways. So we want to open things up for anyone that has comments or questions for Dr. Velvet and Dr. Latrice. That was brilliant. I'm so grateful that you guys said yes, to help. I love learning from our team. You guys are amazing. So, if anyone wants to raise your hand and share an insight, an aha, a question for Dr. Velvet and Dr. Latrice, this is a good time. Unless, Gregory, you want to say anything before we open things up? Okay. So, Jen, your hand is up first.
I know, forgive me. I'm just so excited by this conversation. You all are just such wonderful educators. Amen. Hallelujah. Thank you so much for this. So powerful. Just really quick in my journey, I've done a lot of work over the last decade, and I have anchored myself. I use this ring. There's two places in scripture that the rose is mentioned, and Dr. Velvet talked about toxicity. Well, I didn't know what was toxic. I had gotten used to toxicity. And so in my healing journey, this ring is really just there to remind me when I sense something that is not sitting well. Do I really need to be in this space? Why am I in this space? What do I need to be learning from this space? And do I need to leave this space? Is it toxic? Am I blossoming like a rose here, or am I wilting? And my question to you, which is just spot on, thank you so much, Dr. Velvet. Dr. Latrice, you just brought it together so beautifully. You said the active imagination is required for a healthy mindset. You said that towards the very beginning. And my question to you is, what is the difference when you're looking at your imagination? How do you evaluate healthy imagination versus an imagination and unproductive or even speculative? Is there a difference between vain and speculative versus a healthy imagination? Because I genuinely want to know as I really am diving a little bit deeper into creating, into being a powerful and effective creator.
I'll take it. You want me to take it, Dr. Velvet? Okay. I know she was directing the question sort of kind of at you, but you check your internal system that the creator, you mentioned the rose, you mentioned the Bible, check the internal place that the creator left for you. He gives us feelings. He gives us feelings for a reason. We have pain so that we know something's wrong. When you check your gut and it feels queasy, when you check your heart and it feels sad, then you're thinking the wrong thought. You're heading in the wrong direction. We used to say, you want to start a business, you want to change your life, you want to do whatever decision you're making, and you do all the research. And all the research says, yes, proceed, go in that direction. But we say, take a moment. What does he say? Get quiet, be still, and then wait and see. How does that feel? And then go with that. Even if all the research says do it and the heart says don't. If the research says don't do it, but the heart says, something in me really believes that you could get this done, girl, then go ahead and move in that direction. I hope that helps some, Jen.
I'd like to add something to that if I could real quick.
Please.
And Robin and I are doing this master class on spirituality. Okay. So, and we're learning a lot. And one of the things that I've come to realize, and I say this intuitively, that intuition is a God-given talent. And we all need to be open to that. Just exactly as you said, Dr. Treese, if you ask your heart, you'll get the right answer. The head may get you a little confused. Okay. It might think your way through to take the left turn when you're supposed to go right, but your heart's going to say, no, go right. So I just think relying on your intuition, your God-given talent of intuiting what is right for you. And I know, Dr. Velvet, you wanted to add something to that.
I do.
And then I want to add something too.
Okay, awesome.
How
Because
exciting.
this is important to teach children too. So when we're looking at our imagination, Jen, if it's something I do not want to manifest, I shut it down quickly. Like if my imagination goes into a car wreck or what if the possibilities, I'm like, wait a minute, no, that's not, I see, I switch my imagination to what I do want to feel and to see. So the quickest way for me is always shutting down and we do it naturally. We might be watching a movie and the next thing you know, we're daydreaming, right? I really cut all daydreaming out as possible because it can lead to some kind of effect.
I
Mhm.
love that.
And a great book you might want to look into, Jen, is Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon
Oh,
Hill.
It's an
yeah.
amazing book, an amazing book. And
If you're ready for it, if you're ready for it.
well, it's very timely, and I think that might be one to look into. I just want to bring to light, Laria mentioned in the chat, when we're tuning in, are we in this contracted space or an expansive pace? Are we coming from fear? Are we coming from love? And so thank you, Laria, for bringing that, because, you know, that's one of the best guides I think we all have, is to tune in and ask those questions. Is this coming from fear? And watch yourself. Are you contracting or are you expanding? Because every day we come across things we've never done before, and we have a choice in the moment. Are we going to expand into it and grow? Are we going to shut ourselves down? And this book and this teaching today are so incredibly powerful, because we all have these pathways in there, and not all of them are supportive. And so to be aware and recognize the ones that are not true. And the guide today was so amazing. So, other comments or
I
questions?
want to say one more thing since I brought
Yes.
up intuition and this master class Robin are doing. And one of the teachings to open your intuitive powers is the breath. And if you're in a challenging condition or space or trying to make a decision, sometimes you just got to slow down, take a few deep breaths, and relax into it to give your heart a chance to connect to your head, and you're going to get a little bit better guidance.
That's great, honey.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that timing that you're talking about right there, Mr.
Mhm.
Gregory. We need that time to create that
Mhm.
space so we
Mhm.
can't hear the other. We can't hear
Mhm.
the other when we're so focused and we're wrapped up in this, and we don't give that time and space
Mhm.
so that we can connect with the heart, and the heart can lead us in the right direction. Thank you so, so much for that.
This is
Ah.
a juicy call, you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And it is underneath everything is, what's going to control us and our opportunities here. So, other comments or questions or ahas from anyone? Because there is a lot here today. Oh my goodness, I think everyone's processing. Anyone else have any comments or questions or ahas? Who has an aha? You can write it in the chat.
I'm
Well,
going to go
while
ahead
while
and
we
remove the spotlights, but you guys can still continue talking, but just so we can see everybody. So
Yes.
go right ahead.
It's interesting. I was thinking as I was listening with Dr. Velvet and then listening now to Miss Robin and Mr. Gregory, how, we talked about how we are the product of our thoughts. I am here today because of thoughts from yesterday, last month, last decade, last century. I
Mhm.
mentioned when I was born. But most of us won't talk about that. We won't even lean into that, because they say that while we're all the product of our thoughts, that generally it's only those who are successful that will admit it. Because if I say I'm not where I want to be, if I say I'm not doing what I want to do, I'm not living the life of my dreams, and it's my fault, it's my responsibility. Now I feel bad about myself, but we only feel bad for a short period of time until we get on a path and we start building that path and we start tramping down that grass and we move into that direction.
Mm.
I love
Beautiful.
it. And, this environment that we have, this, Gregory and I call it a greenhouse. It's a safe place to go to some new places, to have awareness, to be supported by our community and thinking differently, because we have such a magnificent community of people that are really committed to growing and committed to serving, and it directly affects our business. So I want to see if there's anyone else that wants to share.
I have something else I want to share.
Okay,
But I
honey.
think it kind of ties this together, and it's Napoleon Hill's probably one of his most famous quotes: "What the mind can conceive, uh, think up, create, and believe. I think I could do that. it can achieve. Conceive, believe, and achieve. And that sets your mindset. It's that belief. You conceive, I think I could become a director. I really think I could. Look at how many other people did it. I think I could do it too. That's the conception. I believe I could do it. And that's like sets the mindset, and the universe, your upline, prospects, and will just kind of line up along with you to get you there. So uh, this is a really juicy call. Thank you, ladies. That is
You know what?
incredible.
Yeah, I love that, Mr. Gregory. I love that. You're talking about right now that we need to choose
Mhm.
empowering interpretations. We
Right.
need to make that choice and we need to do it every day. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that, Mr. Gregory. Yeah.
Every day. You know, this reminds me of my friend Marilyn King, who's been on our program a long, long time ago, but she was an average athlete, so she thought. And she got into athletics because her family traveled and she was an introvert and it was her way to meet people. She took on track and field and she just started doing stuff. And, you know, she went to this event and this woman who she had beaten was chosen for the Olympics. And she had a mindset shift and created a new pathway like, oh my goodness, I could be in the Olympics. And it started a pathway that grew every single day. And she used the power of her mind. And she has an amazing story. I don't know, I guess I'm going to briefly share it. That she actually was in 2 Olympics as a pentathlete. That's 5 track and field events. So she wanted to be in her third, and sadly, she was in an accident. A truck hit her car, and she was bedridden for 6 months prior to Olympic trials. And she did her entire training for 5 events mentally. She did visualization, she did affirmation, she watched videos forwards and backwards. She had what she considers one of the best mental training coaches in the world at that time. This is back in the late 70s. Olympic trials came around with no physical training at all, only training here. And David talked about this yesterday on LifeWave Connect, the power of our mind to build our muscles and how we can actually build our muscles this way. And with no physical training, she qualified for her third Olympics. That's the power here. What we have between our ears is the most powerful tool ever. If you want to heal from something, it's what are you putting in your mind? What are you feeding yourself? Is it life affirming? And I know, you know, when Gregory was not well, we had music going on 24, you know, it was on whenever he was awake, and it was always life affirming music and listening to Joe Dispenza and just filling the mind, knowing it didn't look good, but he did the work. So, Dr. Latrice, you got your hand up.
Yes, I'm just listening to you, and all these thoughts are just racing through my head. And the mind is a muscle.
It is.
The mind is a muscle. And so, we cannot consistently move in a direction that we don't believe. That woman, that story, she couldn't move in that direction because she didn't believe it was possible for her until she recognized, hey, I did better than her before. So if it's possible for her, it's possible for me. And then when her belief changed, then she was able to move in that direction. Sorry for what she had to go through, but our mind is amazing. Your story reminds me, Robin, so much of the, what do they call him? The Miracle Man, the man who was in the plane crash. And he couldn't do anything but blink his eyes. He was paralyzed, nothing. And he would blink his eyes as they went across this chart with all the alphabets on it, and he would blink. That I want that alphabet, not that one. He blinked out. I will walk out of here by Christmas. He said, when all you have left is your mind, you can't imagine what you can do. He walked out of that hospital on his own accord on Christmas. All he could do was blink his eyes.
I love it. It is, you know, the power we have within us, and we get to unleash it in our business model. and together, and we get to celebrate together. And so my invitation to everyone is to really watch, to be aware of what are those pathways, and are you wanting to make a new one? Jen, you got your hand up, hon.
I do. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be involved in this conversation. It's such a blessing. And I've heard Robin say over and over again, I'm sure Gregory as well, and Dr. Latrice and Dr. V can bring it all home. What I've been really thinking about lately, meditating on, are these little, when you're exercising your muscles, and you have little tiny micro tears in your muscles that it create growth. So I've been doing a little bit of yoga lately. That's one of my things that I've been doing morning, evening. So I'm really learning about getting to a place where I'm using these I'm help me with the words. Help
Strengthening.
me.
Strengthening.
Strengthening the muscle, but not going to a place of injury. Okay, and maybe y'all can talk a little bit about the mind with that, because I don't really consider the mind as a muscle, the brain maybe as a muscle, but going to a place where there's growth but not injury, and maybe just adding a little bit of powerful helpful action points for that.
Latrice, can I go first and
Please,
then
please, please, please. Yes.
That's a very good point, Jen. And Spirit never wants us to break our mind. When we do those little micros, it's awareness, right? It's asking that deeper question just to examine just that one question, not take all night long and go through it, because then you could go through a dark night of the soul, is what we call it, is that you've literally have split your mind, you've separated the ego from the higher and lower mind, and then there's this place that can be very, very vulnerable, right? That's where the injury can occur. But when we just take a little question, ask that, become aware of it, and then switch that wording, just like I said earlier, is that, and I loved what Robin said, I could be in the Olympics. Just by saying that little micro sentence right there is enough to keep you in the safety zone, but still stretching that muscle. Okay. And when Dr. Latrice is talking about a muscle, she's talking about the activity that you're doing to expand your mind. So if we're only thinking narrowly, we're always going to have a narrow view. But she's talking about exercising it to expand your perspective, if that makes sense. Sorry, Dr. Latrice.
I love what you just said, Dr. Velvet, because you put in the word safety. And for you, Jen, that's really it. We can grow as long as we feel safe. And many of us we've talked about this. We're not raised in a safe world, whether it's physically, spiritually, emotionally, socially, financially, sexually. And so we've got to feel safe to go to that next place. And so we're expanding. And David talked about this yesterday. Some people get into their exercise program and they go into unsafe territory because they do too much too fast. And we can do that in our own personal growth too. If we just go too much, then we do this. So we want to gradually grow where it feels, we want to stretch beyond the current boundaries while it still feels safe, and then continue and continue and continue. But too much too fast gets us hurt. And that's not what we want. So that's a really important part. I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's very helpful, I think, for everybody to be thinking like that. What can I do today that's a little bit of a stretch, And what's the new pathway I want to create? And those questions in each chapter are really, really powerful. And so I invite everyone to do the act, everyone. Yeah, that was great that you brought that up, because there's so much wisdom in this little teeny book that is life changing. And living in, I started doing personal development work when I was in my early 20s. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I started realizing these belief systems that I've been holding my whole life, you know? And some of them are still lingering. And I don't know about you guys, but a lot of us have this I'm not good enough thing. Wherever that one came from, it doesn't matter. We all are good enough. And so we need to continue to do the work. But the awareness comes first, and then the power to choose, and then creating those new pathways that are safe and a stretch at the same time. Okay, thank you for bringing that up. That was wonderful. Oh my
So
gosh.
Dr. Velvet and Dr. Latrice, you kicked it off. Do you want to close it up? We're almost at the top of the hour. Do you have any closing thoughts for our wonderful call? Thank you so much for opening everybody's mind to mindset.
I love it. Before you guys finish up, there's one more thing I want to share is the power. We're talking about the power of our thoughts and the power of our words. And I do believe that the two most powerful words in the English language are I am. And so to really pay attention and awareness, what are you putting after the I am or I have? You know, that's the same thing as I am. You're owning it. So pay attention to what it could be. I am tired. I am sore. I am whatever. But to realize that that's what you're going to get more of. And so now I want to turn it back to you guys to close it up for a brilliant session today. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Dr. Latrice, you take us out because I know you've got some beautiful ending words to share.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate your trust, Dr. Velvet. I guess the last thing I would think in terms of sharing would be, you know, we're not who we think we are, but who we think we are. You know, I learned that you mentioned back in your early 20s, right? I learned that from Earl Nightingale. I still have a 45 record of him, listening to him say, you're not what you think you are, yet what you think you are. So we're not just human beings. We're human becomings. And I know it's going to take courage. It's going to take courage to push yourself to a place that you've never been before, to test your limits and to break through some barriers. But I promise you, it's worth it. Thank you so much, Miss Robin. Thank you so much, Mr. Gregory.
Oh, thank you guys. Oh my gosh, this was amazing. So I think I'm going to listen to this one again. We're so grateful for the wisdom from our leaders sharing with our community. And again, our invitation is to do the work, you know, really take to heart the questions at the end of each chapter and reread the chapters and highlight them. I mean, my book is like, it's crazy because everything is a gem in this book, and it is so simple and so powerful, and there's work to do. But you guys were brilliant today. We're so grateful. And Gregory, any final comments? Or we?
Yeah, the recording from this, the recordings from these calls are usually available within 24 hours on Live Younger YouTube.com. So this should be up by later on today or tomorrow morning.
And Gregory put the link for the book in the chat. And yes, I am becoming. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful one.
Thank you, Dr. Velvet and Dr. Latrice.
Thank you, Dr. Velvet and Dr. Latrice. Very
Amazing.
helpful.
Thank you.
Fabulous.
Dr. Velvet.
Lots to ruminate on.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Synergy.
Thank you.
The
Great
two
program.
perfect people to share this.
Thank you.
Talk soon.